Hello, Rob here from That Little Box with a quick intro video to Qlab from Figure 53. Qlab is an amazing piece of software used for audio, video, and even lighting playback. We don't make it, but we love it, and people all over the world use That Little Box products to control Qlab during their shows. I want to give you a basic tour of Qlab and show you how to set up your first audio cues for some sound playback. I'm going to be using the free version of Qlab available from the Qlab website. Now let's have a look at the main window. One of the best things about Qlab, in my opinion, is that it has a really simple interface that hides its huge capabilities. As we want to play back audio, the very first thing I suggest we do is go to the Preferences, the little gear logo in the bottom right hand corner, and select the Audio submenu. Here we can assign an audio output device. I'm just going to use my computer speakers for now, but if you have any sound cards attached, they'll show up here. Now let's go back to the main window and have a look at it. Every action that we can perform in Qlab is represented with a cue. The toolbar at the top of the screen lets us choose from the various cue types available. Once a cue is created by either selecting it from the toolbar or dragging media onto the screen, it will be displayed in the main cue list. The section at the bottom of the screen is the cue inspector. This displays information and options about the cue we've got selected. So let's create a few audio cues. I'm just going to use Finder to find the files I want to play back and drag them into Qlab. So now we have our first audio cues. We can see that Qlab's automatically given each cue a number based on where in the cue stack it was created and a name based on the audio file. Both of these we can change if we want by double clicking, and we can drag cues around. These files are all in alphabetical order in Finder, so I'm going to change them around to the order I want for my show. First I want a voiceover, then a backing track for a song, some canned applause, and finally I want the backing track again as walkout music for the audience leaving. Now that we've moved things around, all of our cue numbers are in the wrong order. So let's select them all, hit Tools, renumber selected cues, starting at 1 and incrementing by 1 to renumber them correctly. Great, now our show's in the correct order and numbered correctly. Problem is, at the moment everything's playing at full volume, so let's look at setting some appropriate levels for each cue. First, let's take our walkout music and set it to a good low level for the audience to leave the auditorium to. In the cue inspector, select Audio Levels. We're presented with a bank of faders from left to right. Here we can change the output level of our cue as a whole using the master, or we can change the levels on just the left or right channels. Let's also turn down our canned applause so they're not too conspicuous. Notice that as well as the output channels from left to right, we also have input channels from top to bottom displayed below the output faders. Together these form what Qlab calls a crosspoint matrix. We can see that when we're using a stereo file, we have two inputs that are automatically sent to our first two outputs, usually left and right. If we look at our voiceover cue, we can see that we've got a problem. The voiceover is a mono file and so only has one input. It's been automatically routed to the first output, which if we're using a stereo pair is only going to come out the left-hand side.
This is a Qlab demo by That Little Box.
To fix this, we need to add a new crosspoint to the right-hand channel. The crosspoint box is basically a fader and can be dragged up and down. 0 represents no change from input to output, and we can use plus or minus numbers to create boosts or cuts in signal.
This is a Qlab demo by That Little Box.
Finally, we need to make sure that our walkout music covers until the last audience members left the auditorium. The best way to do it is to play it in a loop. To do this, select the cue and hit the Time and Loops inspector. This will show us the waveform of our audio file and give us all sorts of options for looping and slicing it up. For now, we're just going to hit Infinite Loop. The track will now play over and over and over again forever. That's great, but we don't really want to hear the whole track. We just need a bed for the audience leaving, so let's change the start and end times so we can get a loop of continuous music that we can play until the audience have all gone. And that's it. Now we've got a very simple show file using just audio cues and we can start our very first show. I hope you've enjoyed this little video from That Little Box.